Okay, so you guys ready for Patzer Playground? I'll do, I guess, 2 games, hopefully. Okay, so let's do this one first. Okay, here we go. Okay, names protected. Names are changed to protect the innocent. Okay, Patzer's Playground number 3. Here we go. We are white. Okay, so Scandinavian. So most people take, but white wanted to tread off the beaten path. Knight c3. Perfectly fine. Just a little bit of a trickier line, because after black plays this move d4, white is forced to play knight ce2, which is what he played. Then after e5, knight g3. So it's kind of like an Alekhine. Kind of like a reversed Alekhine in a way. You see white's kind of wasting some time getting the knight around the board, but it's perfectly reasonable. The idea is that black's kind of overcommitted by playing this move d5, d4. Yeah. So this is fine. It's just a little offbeat. That's all. Okay, so knight f6, bishop c4. Good move. Development is good. Development is good. Okay, h6. So here, white plays this move d3. Okay, which in and of itself is fine. But it was a mistake because the reasoning behind it was faulty. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. But like the move itself isn't a mistake, but I know what white was trying to do, and what white was trying to do was a mistake. So white should be just trying to develop his king side, like knight f3 and castling, but I'll show you what I mean in a second. Because after knight c6, white thinks that it's better to play this move f4 first before playing the knight out. But that's not correct. Because after this move f4, what should black play here? Do you guys see what black should play here? Yeah, very good, follower. Very good. So bishop b4 actually is very strong.
Check.
So the point is, you can't block this. I don't believe so, Pacific. So bishop d2, you just take on f4, wins a pawn. So you have to play king f1. And if you have to play king f1, it's usually not good for you. So yeah, f4 was a big mistake. And white played d3 so that he could play f4. But black didn't take advantage. So instead, like I said, white should play knight f3 and just castle. And it's, you know, white's fine. Okay, so bishop g4, knight f3, queen d6. Okay, so now we have to ask ourselves, what's black threatening? What should we do? So can you guys maybe think of a move that white should have played here? Because black did not capitalize on white's mistake, and now white can fix it. But the question is how? It requires a precise move here. So do you guys know what it is? Very good, follower. Very good. The right move is actually queen d2. Point is, we're doing 2 things with this move. 1, we're defending this pawn, and 2, we're unpinning our queen. It looks a bit awkward, but it's actually best. So now after queenside castle, take, queen f4, it's equal. mean, white has no problems. But instead, white castled. And unfortunately, just hangs a pawn. Like, I don't know why black didn't take this pawn. So, I mean, if takes 92, just g5, and white's just lost. So I have no idea why black didn't take that pawn. If queen b4, on what position? Here? If it's queen b4? You just lose a pawn, I just take on e5. Or, I mean, I can even take with a knight, I guess. Don't forget, queen's defending this pawn on e5. So, and now it's just equal again. I mean, you're going to win the pawn, I guess, back. You're going to take and then play knight d7, but I mean, I prefer to be white now because now the open f file is important. So, anyway, so castle was a mistake, and black should have taken on f4, but he castled. Okay. So now, castling was a big mistake, actually. Good luck, Higgs, tomorrow. What should white do here? So there's a little trick now. There's a little trick. What did black undefend with that move? Yeah. So black undefended this square. Can we take it? Right, do we want to? And if not, why not? Right, exactly. Yes, exactly. So yeah, if we take f7, black still takes f4, and that pawn is more important than the f4 pawn is more important than the f7 pawn. So what should white do? And the answer is white has a little trick up his sleeve. So the reason that black can take this pawn is because he has two attackers. We only have one defender. So if we can somehow lure this defender away, we'd be able to take this pawn on f7. And we can with this cute move knight to f5. And what's the point? So the point is, if the queen moves, we just take on f7. Pretty simple. If the queen defends the pawn on f7, we can take on e5. Actually, maybe h3 first, and then we can take on e5. But the real point is, if bishop takes f5, rather than recapture on f5, we actually capture on e5. And now the queen's attacked, so he has to take. And now we take. And now again, we're attacking this. So if he moves the bishop, we just take on f7 with the knight. So he takes with the queen. And now after rook takes f5, we're going to take on f7 next. And if he plays queen e7, now after e5, now all of a sudden black's in serious trouble. Knight d5, queen f3, and black's almost lost. So he had the opportunity to play that move, knight to f5 here. After which white would probably be better. But h3, unfortunately, does nothing about this hanging f-pawn. Black can still take this, because g3 hangs. So, ef4, knight e2, bishop h5. And now, all of a sudden, I mean, black should have played takes f3 and g5. And just held on to this pawn. But after bishop h5, what's on pre? Well, it's this pawn's on pre. We can simply take it. Bishop takes f4. Not only do we take it, we gain a tempo. And not only do we take it and gain a tempo, we give a square for our knight. So after bishop takes f4, queen moves somewhere, say queen e7, knight g3, all of a sudden, white's good again. His pieces are kind of jumping to active outposts. But for some reason, white just failed to realize that he could take the pawn. And play knight h4, and now it's getting ugly. g5, now double defense and attack. See? Black's making moves that do two things at once. And he's not worried about knight f5 because the knight is actually a ghost knight on f5. It looks good, but it actually doesn't do anything. And this pawn on f4 is very strong. So knight f5, what else are you going to do? Queen d7. And yeah, white is not doing well here. Black's up a pawn, and these pawns are really restricting white's mobility. This bishop is pinning this knight, this bishop is stuck, this rook is stuck, this bishop is kind of outside the pawn chain but doing nothing. So real trouble here for white. Okay, so queen e1, knight e5, bishop e3, rook e8. Okay. So what opportunity does white have in this position? That white didn't have here. And why? Knight takes d4. Okay, which knight? Which knight? Two choices. So the answer is the e knight, knight e d4. And why is it possible? Why is it possible? Right, but why wasn't it possible here? Why couldn't I play knight e d4 here? So the point is, knight e d4 here, bishop c5. And if the rook were still on d8, there'd be 3 attackers, only 1 defender. But now here, we're just in time, because we can play queen c3. Simultaneously attack and defense. So again, we're doing 2 things with this move, attack and defense. And now if bishop b6, for example, now we're just in time, and we can play a move like king h1. And now we're ready to move this knight next move. The problem with knight knight fd4, is after bishop c5, queen c3, now black wins material with bishop takes e2. Because now this knight's pinned. And if queen takes c5, then b6, and bishop takes f1 next. So knight g7 fork. And that does not work. Bishop c5, knight g7 fork, I just take on d4.
Check.
And I just move my rook. Don't forget, this bishop is defended. So it's not really a fork. So I can just play like rook g8, and then you're just down a piece. But okay, so white missed this opportunity to take on d4. That would have significantly improved his position. But instead, he played king h1. So he thought he had to play king h1 first. Because now, okay, now he's like, okay, now I'm threatening this because now there's no pin. But if he had calculated a little bit further, he would have realized he could have taken anyway because of this queen c3 saving grace. Okay, so now bishop g6. He took on d4 finally. f3. Okay. So now it's time to put on our tactical caps. Because f3 is actually a bad move. Okay, but why? This is tricky. This is very tricky. So let's put on our tactical caps and see if we can figure it out. This is very, very, very subtle. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to figure it out. Okay, so the point is we don't want to take this way if we can't help it, right? Because it ruins our pawn structure. But what happens if we take this way? Well, the point is take seems like it wins a piece, right? Because we can't take this way because of the pin. And if we take this way, then queen takes, again, exploiting the pin. So the question is, what can we do? So that was a tactical point of what was going on. So the question is, what can we do? Right, and we don't want to allow this pawn takes pawn check. And we don't want to play g4. So, follower has the right idea. Follower has the right idea. And no, knight takes h6 just loses all your pieces. So I don't recommend that. Knight takes h6, I can take on d4, and then I take on h6, and then I take on g2, and you lose all your pieces. So not best. But here's the point. So the point is knight takes f3, knight takes f3, rook takes f3, bishop takes f5, and now, the beautiful move, super move, extra move, best move. Are you sure it's queen a5? Are you sure? Sure it's queen c3? It's actually queen g1. It's actually queen g1. And the point is, yeah, these guys are still both on the same line, and we're hitting this. Yeah, very subtle, very tricky, very tricky. If you play queen a5, I think the point is I can play queen d4, maybe. And then on bishop e3, I play bishop b4, maybe. I don't know whether you can take on d4. Well, yeah, if you take my bishop, I play bishop c5. Oh, queen f5?
Check.
Knight d7, maybe? I guess this looks okay for you. I mean, maybe queen a5 works too, actually, to tell you the truth. Maybe queen a5 works too. I was thinking maybe I could take on e4 and then play b6 or something. But no, that probably doesn't work either. Okay, let me just check real quick. I'll just check real quick just to make sure. Yeah, okay, yeah, see, it doesn't work. Oh, no, it does work. Okay. No, it doesn't work. Yeah, bishop takes e4 and c5. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't work. So bishop takes e4, queen takes a7, and then c5. Whoops. And c5. And now if you take on f6, that's mate in 3 because I take on h3. Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, but queen g1 works. Okay. Anyway. So, again, okay, let me close this to get rid of the computer. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Okay, so anyway, this position. So again, it's super tough to see, but it was a possibility. So I don't really blame white for not finding that, but just letting you guys know it was possible. But yeah, unfortunately after g takes f3, now this actually completely validates what black did. So c5. And now, can white maybe try to complicate the game a little bit here? Again, there's another kind of tricky thing that's difficult to spot. But there's a cool point. Okay, so again, this one is tricky. But yeah, f4. And the point of f4 is to give this knight a square in f3. And I'll show you why. Because, okay, if you take on d4, first of all, I take on e5. And now I've opened up this file. And this is a lot better than not having this file open. Okay, but if pawn takes, now the point is revealed. Queen c3 and knight f3. And now all of a sudden, white's better. So it would have been an interesting try, but okay, knight e2, take, and now material is even, but I mean, these pawns are super weak and white's just gonna get mated soon. So queen g3, bishop d6, getting ready to do some sort of discovery. Queen g2. Okay. So how should black finish the game here? Basically black to move and win, because black kind of messes this up. So do you guys know how black should finish the game here? Well, white can't do anything, so you have to ask yourself, where do you want your pieces? And the answer is you want your knights in better spots. You want your knights here and here. You want your knights on h4 and h5. h5 to get ready to play this, and h4 to attack this and this. So knight g6, knight h4, and knight h5 should be black's next three moves, and it's pretty much game over. So for example, knight g6, bishop d2, knight h4. Actually, I mean, this is just GG already, because I'm threatening queen h3 next. But let's say, I don't even know how to intelligently defend. Okay, maybe rook d1 or something. Knight h4, queen h1. And now, of course, there's a very pretty rook takes e2, which just ends the game, deflecting the queen from the h3 square. So, I mean, this is completely hopeless. But yeah, knight g6 and knight h4 is the way to go. But okay, black didn't do that. Black kind of dilly-dallied. Queen d7, I don't know what that was. King b8, I have no idea what that is. Queen c7, I don't know what that is. h5, I'm not really sure what that is. Okay. So all of a sudden, from being completely lost, like utterly lost, now white's actually better. Somehow. And the question is, how does white convert his superiority? So I have no idea what black's last four moves were. I can't explain them. They're inexplicable. But what should white do here? So yeah, no fear, guys. Check and g5. Personally, I would just take on d6 first. But take on d6, take on g5, no fear. And look at these bishops now. Look at these bishops. This rook's coming to e1. You're up a pawn. f4 is coming. This knight's pinned. Like, white's just clearly better. There's no fear on the g file. I can always just play queen f4. Pin the knight every which way. White's just much better here. It requires a little bit of a nerve in order to take on g5, but really, as long as the h file is closed, that's all that matters. And this pawn is just hanging. No reason not to take it. Again, I would probably take on d6 first just to kind of minimize the dark square weaknesses, but taking on g5 is also perfectly reasonable. But instead, white gets a little scared, plays rook e1. And now the problem is black defends this pawn. Turns out that he can actually still take. He can actually still take. This is fine because he can't play f6 because of this. And f4 is going to come when this knight is supported, and then you can move the queen out of the pin. So this pawn was still hanging actually, and he should have taken it, but unfortunately he played knight takes d6 and queen f2. Okay. Now black's trying to bust our king open. What should white do here? Yeah, very good. Very good. f4. Yeah, so it does multiple things. One, it actually keeps this somewhat semi-closed. But two, it actually threatens this knight, and when the knight moves, we take on f7. So really, black has nothing better than to move this knight. I mean, he can play g3 first, but we just play queen g2. Same thing. So knight c6, we take on f7. We don't actually win material here, because black can take on e1, which he should do. Okay, but after rook d8, or actually, we should actually queen, I'm sorry, because our queen wants to get active on this file. And after rook d8, queen e6. And here, white's better again. Just up a pawn. Yeah. And if knight f3, again, take on f7. Don't forget this bishop defends e1. So you take on e1, I take on g8. You take on g8, I take on e1. Again, I'm better. Yeah, exactly, Kwame. This is what happens on the merry-go-round known as Patzer's playground. Now there's no queen takes f4, because the queen defends h2, so. No, it's not that scary. It's not that scary. Because I always have bishop d5 and take on f3, so you don't really have anything. Okay, but unfortunately, white opens up lines to his king and plays fg, hg, h4. Okay, trying to close it up, but by now it's too late because after g3, queen g2, queen h6. Okay, so now it looks like white's on his deathbed, getting ready to get checkmated. But that's not how Patzer's playground works, because white's actually still fine here, but he needs to find one more move. One more move. So what's that move, guys? What's that move for white to save himself? After all of this tomfoolery. It's not a particularly difficult move to find. It's not a particularly difficult move. Yeah, he can save h4. How should he save h4? Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, rook f4 unfortunately hangs the rook, so you might want to think about the other one. Don't hang your rook. But yeah, rook e4. Just defend the pawn. And believe it or not, white's fine. White is perfectly fine. It looks weird. Why not rook f4? Because I said it hangs a rook. Rook f4 I take. And you're down a rook. So you want to play rook e4. And you're fine. But unfortunately, the roller coaster known as Patzer's playground.
Check.
He took on e5. And now this loses by force to rook takes e5. And now notice rook e4 is not possible. Right? Because of rook e4, I just take. And if you take with the queen, I have g2, win everything. And if you take with the pawn, I have queen h4, win everything. So this is why bishop takes e5 loses. Rook e5 wins instantly. But, of course, knight takes e5. Not the best, but enough to win, sadly. And now, do you guys see the mate in 7? Do you guys see the mate in 7? This is actually not particularly difficult. It's not particularly difficult. Because pretty much every move is a check. Except for one, I think. Maybe two. Yeah, very good. Very good. Give you time. It's made in 7. I mean, how much time you need? 6 seconds, 7 seconds? Seriously. Yeah. You guys have the idea. So there's one cute move that helps speed things along a bit. But you can do it without cuteness if you really wanted to. I mean, you could just win all the rooks. I mean, a variety of methods. But the simplest is, yeah, you guys got the right idea. It's queen h4. And this is resignable. But yeah, knight f3 is the quickest path to Rome.
Check.
All roads lead there, but this is the quickest. Because the idea is you're going to win this rook by force. So something like rook f3, rook e1.
Check.
And then the tricky part is you have this queen d4 and rook h8 idea. So no matter what you block with, you play queen d4 check.
Check.
And then rook h8 check.
Check.
And then, you know, give various checkmates. So I think it's like here. Oh, sorry, not there. Queen h3. Check.
Check.
Here. Check.
Check.
Here. And then there's like a mate somewhere. Something like this. But yeah. So how many moves I play here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is already 7. So I probably missed something faster. Oh, here I played this probably.
Check.
Yeah, and then this is mate.
Checkmate.
Sorry. No, you're right. Yeah. Okay. And this is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. There's the mate in 7. Yep, you're right. Rook takes f1. I was too excited. I was like, free queen. But in this position, it doesn't really matter if you mate in 7 or 8 or 9. But notice how White had a faulty plan in the opening to play f4. Wasn't punished. Hung f4 for 3 moves. Finally was taken. Was dead lost. Suddenly he was fine. Was dead lost again. Suddenly he was better. Was dead lost again. Suddenly he's fine. And then he lost. So, it's a typical Patzer's playground game. But yeah, for the future, he should know not to play f4 prematurely. Because those bishop b4 ideas can be tricky. Yeah, so that was a really good one, I think, to go through. The twists and turns were very interesting. Okay, you guys want one final one? You guys want one final one? F4 stands for fun? Not all the time. Not all the time. Okay, we'll do one more for the fans. I'll do one more Patzer's Playground and I'll call it a stream. Alright, which one should I do? Man, if I did that crazy endgame one, I could spend another 4 hours on that one. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's see. Which one should I do? Okay, let's do this one actually. You're always welcome, obviously. I'm not gonna do the 4-hour one. That one, I have to devote like a separate one to. Okay, we'll do this one. This one is actually a reasonably good one in terms of the quality of play, so. Yeah, is absolutely always welcome. Okay, so let's do this one. Again, our hero is white. Okay, so e4. So we're gonna actually play a real opening in this one. Okay. So you guys know what this is called? This line. It's not the Yugoslav. No, it's actually, this is the Richter-Rauser. This is the Richter-Rauser. Yeah, it's a shenanigan, but it's a Richter-Rauser. Okay, so here White's idea is to play Queen d2, castle, and f4. So this is what White's main idea is. And then this is a super theoretical position. It's been played thousands of times. Okay. But our Patzer played f4, which is a bit premature. You want to be castled and have played queen d2 before this. Because now black has the opportunity to either play queen b6, hitting this and this, or h6. And again, this is not disastrous, but black has probably equalized. So again, move order is important in the opening. So he had the right idea, just the wrong move order. Okay, so a6. So now this is actually transposing back to a main line, which is reached by a completely different move order. But this is a main line again. Okay, so knight takes c6 is one of the two main moves. The other one, just for completeness, is to play e5. And then the line goes h6, bishop h4, g5, f g5, knight d5. Notice that this is a pin now. Knight d5, e d5. And this is a line. It's crazy, but it's a line. Knight c6 is also very playable, though. So knight c6, bc6. Okay. e5. So this is the main move. And now, what is black forced to play here? What is black forced to play here? Yeah, black is forced to play h6. Yeah, exactly. Very good. But of course, this is Patzer's playground, so he took. And so white correctly
Check.
took the queen, took the pawn. And now
Check.
we've won a pawn. So far, so good. White's just up a pawn, doing well. How many pawn islands does black have, by the way? Yeah, 4. 4 pawn islands for 5 pawns, not the best. Not the best. So, not only are we up a pawn, but, I mean, this guy's not the best. This guy's not the best. This guy's not the best. So we're doing well. So even if somehow black wins this pawn, he plays like h5, rook h6 or something, and this pawn falls for whatever reason, the endgame should still be better for us anyway. But in addition, we're up a pawn. So easy win, right? Well, not so fast. Okay, So what should white do here? Hopefully this move should be obvious to most of you, but yeah, we gotta get this guy into the game. Very good. Yeah. So 000 is indicated. I agree. It makes a lot of sense. Our Patzer played g4. Not good. Not good. Again, g4 doesn't seem to accomplish anything, right? I'm not entirely sure why he played g4. Maybe he wanted to play bishop g2 or something, and he didn't want to play g3, but I honestly don't know what g4 does. And he shouldn't want to extend his kingside pawns because he actually gets into a lot of trouble because of it in a second. I'll show you why. I'll show you why. Okay, so bishop b7, bishop g2, bishop d6, castle. Okay, now black has a very strong move. What should black play here? Yeah, very good. h5, very good. So the point is, if h5, g5, what do we play here? Very good. So bishop f4 check forks these guys. So you can't play g5. But what happens if pawn takes? Well, this one's simple. We just play rook takes, and this pawn is not long for the world. And if you play h3, I just play rook g8, and I'm infiltrating. This is not what you want as white. Black's pieces are coming to life. And the other tricky thing is if h3, what should black play here? So now we want to do a little bit of a fork and play bishop e5. And the point is, we're attacking this pawn, but we're also attacking this knight. And the reason why inserting this move h5 and h3 is important is because now this g4 pawn is a real liability. So we're actually threatening to play something like rook a g8 and just win this pawn. And just as a little trick for you guys, say I play like king b1 here. What should you take, this or this? Yeah. So you should take on c3, right? Because if you take on f6, rook f1, and now this is actually good for white. So yeah, take the knight, and then this pawn's gonna fall. Yeah. Okay. So what did black play? Black played h5. Good. Okay, now now I don't understand this move. He played rook takes d6. I don't know why he felt the need to sacrifice the exchange. But it turns out that this is actually not a terrible move. It definitely gives up his advantage, but he's actually not worse here. But he has to play accurately. He has to play accurately. Okay, so king takes, g5. So this was his point. This was his point. He wanted to take on d6 so that there was no bishop f4 check. So he wanted to defend this pawn, basically. So it's actually somewhat reasonable. But again, the fact that he has a material inferiority means that he can't really ever be better. Although I'm not really sure he's worse. So again, it was an unnecessary sacrifice, but the game is still in relative balance. Okay. So what should white play here? This is an important point as well. And something you guys should really jump on. This is very important. And this is something when you have to play it immediately or you're never going to be able to play it. And the point is you need to very much stop this move. So the correct move is knight a4. Absolutely. Knight a4. And what's the point? The point is to play knight c5 and blockade this pawn so this bishop is terrible. So you prevent the king from coming to b6 and you're getting ready to play knight c5. Yeah, if black plays c5, you just take it, then take on c5. You just win a pawn. And then you're just going to play knight d3, knight e5, win f7. Now white's actually better. So knight a4 is a very important finesse. Very important. And if black plays something like h4, trying to win this pawn, I know most of you guys want to play h4, or you thought it was black's move, but simply just rook g1, and then the idea is you want to play knight c5 and bishop e4 in some order. So if he plays like rook g8, you play bishop e4, he plays rook d8 or something, you play knight c5. Notice that everything's defending each other. The knight's defending the bishop, the rook's defending the pawn. You can't really attack this knight. There's always g6 in the air, like g6, f7, knight e6 check, all sorts of stuff. So that would have been a really nice thing for white to do. But white played h4, which is I think what some of you guys wanted to play. Yeah, like I said, he's not worse after this exchange attack. He's not better. Right, if king d6, again, you just check.
Check. And
force the king back. Right? The king has to go away, back to c7. Now you play knight c5 again. If you play knight c5, whoops, rook g8, or sorry, h4, knight c5. If king d6, don't forget this is hanging as well. Okay, anyway. So he played h4, and of course, yeah, black played c5. Yep, which is a good move, because now there's no knight a4 possibility. Take, knight e4, king c6. Okay, so what should white play here now? This is another very important move. Because now white's potentially going to be worse here. Okay. Well, I'm glad I at least tripped you guys up on this one. The right move is actually g6. The point is, black has to take this pawn and create this very strong passed pawn on f6. And with it, black's winning chances go out the window. So, for example, pawn takes pawn, rook f1, rook hf8, knight g5, and this is a draw. Because this pawn is worth at least the exchange. So I get it to f7, then I play knight h5, knight h7, I win the exchange. Black's pawns are weak. This is probably just a draw. But if you don't play g6 now, you might not ever get the chance. So after knight g3, for example, which is not a good move, he was trying to keep this rook on this pawn. But now, this is lost. This endgame is lost because this king is far too strong and this pawn is far too strong. So these pawns can't do enough. So black doesn't actually need this rook at all in this game. But notice that while black's rook is out of the game, notice that white's knight is also out of the game because it's stuck attacking this pawn and stuck keeping this rook at bay. So whenever the knight moves, the rook will be able to move. And meanwhile, this king can easily infiltrate and just take all of these pawns. Because black's king is so much better than white's king. So the exchange sacrifice actually had a decent positional motivation, but he needed to meet it with some very accurate moves, or else he just let the initiative slip through his fingers. Okay, so king d2, and this king is just too strong now. King d5, king d3, a5, b3, rook c8. He tries to generate some counterplay, but now it's just pretty much over. Okay. And here, white resigned. If h6, just king takes f6. And then if h7, just king takes g7. And if knight e8 check, just king g6, and you lose this pawn. And with it, the game. So white was actually doing quite well in that endgame. But that move g4 really cost him. Because after g4, he basically felt the need to sacrifice the exchange, and then from there, his game kind of went downhill. So it was a very slippery slope.